This is the Xiaomi Mi Note 10. This is the first ever smartphone that has a 108 megapixel camera sensor, and it also has 4 more cameras at the back here with a specific use case for each camera. But this is a camera-centric smartphone with a few twists in it. And today, we're going to take a look around this whole phone and especially focus on the camera itself. Firstly, let's just breeze through all of the other stuff first. So firstly, the display itself. This is a 6.4-inch AMOLED display with 1080p resolution, a water drop notch at the top, and the colors here are real vivid, they are bright, and it also looks really good to the eyes with curved edges around both sides, and I find it good to hold and especially important because this is a rather thick phone. Secondly, the ports on this phone. So at the bottom here, we have the usual loudspeaker, Type-C charging port, and also a headphone jack. Yes, it does come with a headphone jack, and another IR blaster at the top too. All of the buttons have been shifted to the right side, which I don't really care since I'm a left-handed user and I can press all the buttons here. But the card slots on this phone is pretty disappointing because you only have double nano SIM card slots and there is no micro SD card for expansion. Thirdly, we shall talk about the performance. So this phone comes with a Snapdragon 730G with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage. And overall performance of this thing, it's not going to top your benchmark charts, but you can still play games at a comfortable frame rate with high quality settings on this phone without an issue. The fourth point here is going to be about the battery life. So this phone comes with a 5260 mAh battery, and that's where the thickness comes in because you need to pack in such a huge battery. Overall battery life, we can go beyond 15 hours on our battery life test, and that is just amazing. Which leads us to the final point that we want to make before heading to the cameras. The Xiaomi Mi Note 10 comes with a 30-watt charger here. So this charger is able to charge up this phone from 15% all the way to 100 in about 1 hour. So the speed here is really fast compared to a conventional 10-watt charger. So you kinda have the best of both worlds. You have a fast charger here and also a very long-lasting battery. Alright, now it's time for the cameras on the Xiaomi Mi Note 10. So as you can see at the back here, we have a total of 5 cameras, and from the top to the bottom here, we have the 5x optical zoom that is using a 5 megapixel sensor upscaled to 8 megapixel with an f2.0. It also has PDAF and also laser autofocus, OIS, and the second camera here is a 2x optical zoom with a 50mm lens equivalent. It is also using an f2.0 lens with PDAF and also laser autofocus. And then the third camera here is the main star of the show because this is the 108 megapixel sensor with a 7p lens with an aperture of f1.7. You also have PDAF and also laser autofocus with OIS. And the fourth camera here is the ultra wide angle. It's actually quite wide. You have a 20 megapixel sensor in here with an f2.2 and also laser autofocus. And lastly, at the bottom here, which is the smallest camera of all, you have a dedicated macro camera, 2 megapixels with f2.4, and you still have autofocusing feature here. When we started taking pictures with the Xiaomi Mi Note 10, it defaults to take pictures in 27 megapixels because pixel binning 4 to 1 from 108, it goes down to 27 megapixels. And since this is the first ever smartphone that can take pictures in 108 megapixels, we decided to just take every single picture in 108 megapixels. By looking at the pictures itself, we can see that the colors, the details, and also the sharpness is actually kinda great. And I absolutely love the quality that it produces. But when we start pixel peeping, we can see something that's totally different. At 100% crop, we can see that the textures are starting to pop out. So like this pink flower here, if I zoom out all the way, you can see it's just a blotch of pink ink. But when we zoom in, we can see that the flowers are actually having this kind of hair-like structure, which I find it to be amazing, especially if you want to take pictures now and then go back to your studio and have a look at all the textures later. And then when we start to take some close-up shots with the 108 megapixel camera, we can see that there is some sort of lens blurring around the center of the frame itself. You can see everything around the edges starts to warp and it starts to blur radially, and that is a common characteristic with the Samsung phones. This kind of lens characteristic is actually pretty similar with the Galaxy S8 all the way up to the Galaxy S10 Plus that we have here, and I'm familiar with it because this is one of my daily drivers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung actually helped out in the algorithm of the photo processing, because Samsung and Xiaomi partnered to bring you this Mi Note 10 with the 108 megapixel camera. So back to the Mi Note 10. When you are taking night shots, it will default to only 27 megapixels, and the night shots here are pretty quick, but we realize that when we start to zoom in the 27 megapixels image, you can see there's a lot of noise because Xiaomi bumped up the ISO to above 8000 because they want to increase the shutter speed to prevent shakiness from your hands. So if you're only posting to social media, then yes, the pictures look absolutely fine. But then again, if you want to take some glorious pictures, you can opt in to take the pictures in RAW mode while using a tripod, because this phone supports RAW mode. So after our photo shoot with the Mi Note 10, we went back, copied everything to our PC, and then we started analyzing all the pictures. The first thing I realized is the file size of the 108 megapixel pictures. It is only at about 14 megabytes for this night shot here, but when we switch on to night mode to take back the same scene, it is at 27 megabytes. So it goes to show that Xiaomi actually increased the compression rate of the 108 megapixel sensor by so much that the file size is much smaller than the other modes. So with a high compression rate here means that there is a loss of detail. In certain pictures, when we zoom in, we can see the softness in the picture as the details is just gone. Another point to highlight is the shutter delay on this phone, because when you press the shutter button, it does take quite a lot of time for the picture to be taken and saved into the gallery. So this happens because there is just no chipset out there that can support 108 megapixels natively. If you want to learn more about all these ISP and digital signal processing, do let us know, because this is an entirely different topic which we will talk about if you want it to happen. And now back to this phone with the two telephoto lenses at the top here. So by itself, I think these two telephoto cameras are actually doing quite a good job. Its sharpness, colors and details are there, although the upscaled from 5 to 8 megapixel with that 5 times optical zoom is a bit soft because of that upscaling, which I don't understand why they need to upscale. Maybe give us an option to disable that upscaling and just retain that 5 megapixel sharper image. That would be a good choice. But then again, if you're only posting to social media, then all of these cameras are actually doing a good job. And lastly, the macro camera here, which I find it to be redundant, just like the Redmi Note 8 Pro that we have there. For us, we can take a 108 megapixels picture in focus, which we can crop it down and be sharper than what the macro camera can do here. So I don't know what's the purpose of it being here again. So in conclusion, the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 is a concept device that showcases to us what a 108 megapixel sensor can do in a smartphone, which I personally like it a lot because of all the textures that I can look at. However, the processing really needs to be faster. The future is looking bright here, and this is just the stepping stone. But do I recommend you to buy this phone? Well, it depends on you. If you want to live at the bleeding edge of technology, then you might give it a try, but overall, if you want to buy it for everyday use, then maybe there's a better deal out there right now. And that's all we have to say about the Mi Note 10. Do tell us what you think about this phone and all of the pictures that we've taken down in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video.